cost, but we need to understand what the impact is in terms of cost. Can the city afford to do it? And then make that decision to move forward. If it's something that does have a cost benefit, I would fight for it to happen.
Rich?
When these areas were developed, they didn't have the traffic problem we have now. Pedestrian overcrosses work. They work in Las Vegas. If you've been down there lately, you've seen how they work. The traffic goes right on through, the people walk over, they stop, they wave the card. It cost money, and at the time the areas were developed, that was not part of the plan. It should be part of any new plan. The traffic should be allowed to flow through evenly and unstopped. The pedestrians should be able to get from point A to point B without any obstructions.
Thank you.
I don't want to bring up trying to get through there at Christmas time because we know how difficult that is. But definitely we should really look and negotiate with the developers to see if that's a possibility, the cost benefit, if it's feasible to do it. You always see people standing there and trying to cross, and I think it would be an added benefit to, especially for people to walk, because what do you want people to park and not drive their cars and not drive back and forth between both parking lots, right? Thank you.
Thank you.
In concept, it's an excellent idea, but again, we have to look at the cost, do the costs and the benefit analysis. And again, as already mentioned, it needs to be included in any new plans. Definitely I'm for it in concept, but again, we have to look at the nuts and bolts of how it's going to work out.
This next question is the last question we're going to have this evening for this forum. It came in from the audience. I hear you all and appreciate the idea of you standing up for constituents. What do you consider the top 2 or 3 issues affecting our district? What are your own views on those? And how do you propose to get your position heard and followed up by the rest of the council? In 60 seconds.
All right. I think the biggest issue is the fiscal stability of the city and be able to provide for our resources on a sustainable basis. And and everything else sort of flows from that. Our inability to hire police officers, our staff members leaving, low morale within our departments. And so I think what we need to do is make sure we understand what we can do from a long-term fiscal perspective. The second item is I think we need parkland in our district. We are, like I said a minute ago, we have the least amount of parkland per capita of any of the other districts. And so what we need to do is work very closely with our developers, with the Moreland School District, and with others to be able to provide for parkland. So the 2 issues are, the fiscal stability and being able to get higher police officers so we have safe streets, and to be able to maintain our current assets, which I have 15 seconds, so I'll talk about that for a second. We have a $900 million backlog on asset maintenance. And so we're gonna have a very difficult time being able to do that in the future. And so again, we need to make sure that we get jobs here so we can get the revenue to provide services.
Thank you. Chappie?
The biggest issue is fiscal reform. Because of budget deficits, we've seen the impact it's had on our services. So when we talk about we want our streets repaired, when we talk about we want more police, we talk about we want faster response times, all of those things were impacted by the structural deficit. We need to make sure that that is fixed once and for all, and that we can use the money, the savings from the fiscal reforms to plow back into repairing our roads, to hiring more police officers, paying them more money. That's the number one thing that I want to focus in on. And then the second piece of that is economic growth and development. I'm bringing 25 years of experience in terms of working in corporate America, in terms of running a small business, in terms of understanding why a business would even want to come to San Jose to grow and expand. And through that economic growth and development, it's going to generate more revenue. And through that, with that additional revenue, it's going to pay for all those additional services that we're demanding. So those would be the 2 pieces that I focus in on.
Rich?
The biggest issue on everybody's lips is public safety. Right now, we're approximately 200 officers short, and we need to fill those before we can worry about hiring even more. That is why when you have a break-in, you don't get an officer out there. You fill out a report online or you do it by mail. Want to do something about that. Also balance the budget. Let's take the money we have and use it wisely. Let's spend it right. Let's look at where we can most effectively and most efficiently use the money. San Jose is a bedroom community. It's going to be very tough to get business in here that produce revenue. Why? Because it's hard to do business in San Jose. Make it easier for these companies. We've lost big business because they've gone to other cities. They've gone to other states. We need them in San Jose. We need to be like Cupertino and Apple. There would not be a Cupertino if there wasn't an Apple. We need to get some of those people here in San Jose to generate the revenue. Then we can get things done more.
Susan?
So the question had to do with District 1, so my first priority would be for public safety. And we know also part of that there's an inverse relationship with public safety and jobs. So now we see the economy starting to get better. We see the rate is going a little bit, starting to decrease a little bit. But there are a lot of young people that there are a lot of opportunities that are missed. We do a lot for the creative workforce, but we don't do a lot for the people that need to work with their hands. And that's something that I would bring to the table. The other part that I hear about from District 1 is safe streets and the traffic congestion, especially around the schools. I really advocate for slowing down around the schools. Parents are concerned. You hear a lot about that from people. I support the safe routes to schools. We have a walk and roll program that, especially in the Moreland School District, where kids are able to walk with a parent safely to school, and that's going to be expanded more so in District 1. So thank you very much.
Tim?
First of all, I don't think I've seen any statistics that say what D1 residents' top 3 desires are, so I'd love to see some sort of survey on that. But let's know that everybody is concerned about public safety. 3 parts to that. Number 1, as I mentioned, I am for increasing taxes. Number 2, I actually like the idea of putting the charter increase up to vote, because that's up to the voters. If public safety is that big of an issue, then the voters need to decide if you really want more of a fixed amount going to that. Number 3, prevention. We need to support families, make sure they stay together, because that's where the trouble begins, and also address income inequality now. 2, we need to address income inequality in the district and what's going to happen with the growth of seniors will be on fixed incomes. And 3, I'd just like to talk about something that we could have a vision of, getting a community center that's like over there on Bascom Avenue here in this district. Thank you.
All right, we started with you, we're finishing with you.
Yeah, so safety's on everyone's mind, and the infrastructure of the roads and all those things are the top priority, but the number one thing we need to do is get our city financially stable and get more jobs here. We produce about $139 per person in taxes, where other cities like Palo Alto, Cupertino is almost $400 per resident. And that's why they can afford to pay for more of the infrastructure stuff, nicer roads, more cops, things like that. So we need to work on that and get our city job healthy and not be such a bedroom community. We need more jobs in the city. We need people here that'll help cut down on traffic. They're not traveling up and down the peninsula. But the second part of that question was, that I don't think anybody addressed, is how is I going to get city council to help work with me on that? The number one thing I do in all the things that all the different boards I'm on is I bring people together to work on a common cause, and I can do that. I can get city council together to work on a common cause and move forward on things that need to be done.
I want to thank all of you candidates for your participation tonight. With us because he's in the assembly in Sacramento. And now, Daphne, it's up to you.
So I want to thank you. We're not doing your closing statements because we just gave you a 60-second instead of a 30-second. I know you're looking confused. But here's the good part. If you want to stay after and ask the candidates questions and would like to hear any more from them, I'm sure they'll be happy to answer any of your questions and their campaign materials. Some of them have put it on the back table, and please feel free to take that. I want to do 2 things very quickly. I want to thank the Winchester Ranch Mobile Home Association, because they, in concert with us, put together this wonderful program, and the 2 people that really ran it, Susan Norris and Jonah Johnson, are right there. tonight, you probably should vote on June 3rd, or if you have your mail-in ballots, you can go ahead, because I believe this is the last D1 council forum, right? There's one more?
One more.
Well, if you don't plan on going to that one, then you can vote now if you have a mail-in ballot. I want to remind you two other things. One is the next really important city meeting is the city council meeting on June 10th, where the Century 21 status for local landmark status will come up. We need people in the seats for that meeting on June 10th. If you want to ride, please contact someone in our organization. The next big meeting in the city for Winchester Ranch will be in August. It's a city council meeting. We'll get you the date, but this has to do with the general plan and the inclusion of the mobile home park ordinance and the possible changing of that ordinance during that time. Also, I want to encourage you to donate to the Winchester Orchard Neighborhood Association. There are flyers on the back table. It helps pay for meetings like this and a myriad of other things that we are doing. I want to thank the city council candidates. It was very eye-opening listening to all of you, and I hope that you've gotten good information and you will remember to vote. Thank you so much.